Okay, my friends. Whoo, God, I'm about ready. Am I? Think I am. Wow, guys, welcome to this very special episode. I've been waiting for this moment. I've so been waiting to share my testimony with you, my full story of how I met Jesus and how he was seeking my heart, and how one big and life-changing experience changed everything for me. And in this episode, I'll be telling you about what that meeting looked like and what happened in my life after, and how I was able to maintain this and how I was able to place this undeniable existence and aliveness of Jesus and of God. But I'm talking especially about Jesus here and how that has transformed me. At what time in my life did he come? With what purpose did he come? And it's my intention that this may serve as inspiration for you, or that maybe you already found Jesus, maybe you are already walking with him in a deep way, and then you're most likely rejoicing that another woman, another person has found God and has found the kingdom of heaven. And I hope you're rejoicing with me in more people that will hopefully find God after listening and watching to this episode. And it's really my intention for those, especially for those of you who are seeking answers, who are seeking the truth and really the full truth, and like no more half truths, but the 100% full truth that you maybe have not been able to find in spirituality just yet, and also not in religion. Because there is, I'm going to call it a middle path. There is a middle path where it is not necessarily religion, it is not new age and spiritual teachings, but it is deep, close, and intimate relationship with God through Jesus Christ. I am talking about Jesus Christ, full man, full God, who died on the cross for us, for you, for me, for our sins, to pay the price that you and I could never pay. I'm talking about that. About this Jesus, fully man, fully God, who's walked this earth and gave his life in the full knowing of what he would endure. And the true God who is alive. I'm talking not about Jesus the prophet. Yes, he was a prophet as well, but he is so much more and was so much more than a prophet. I'm truly talking about the Son of God. And I will be explaining to you also how this is different, and how seeking relationship with him is different than seeking religion, where religion is a container that comes especially with the rule book, but in a lot of religion, there's not that much place for personal relationship with Jesus. There's more teachings, and there's this rule book of like, hey, here's how you need to behave, play within these lines, color within these lines, and if you don't, there's big consequences. Do this and don't do that, or you may go to hell. Do this to please God, but he's a God that you should fear and walk in a straight line, or else. And that is a part of religion. And I really understand why a lot of people have religious wounds around that, and have church wounds, and have turned away from religion. I'm speaking to a lot of people who were raised religious, but never were taught to seek Jesus himself personally and how that could look like. They were just programmed. These are their words, not mine, because I wasn't raised that way. They were programmed with fear. And I hear from them that a lot of religion that they have experienced is fear-based. And I don't believe that is what God wants for us. And I don't believe that is aligning with Jesus' teachings. Funnily enough, the sentence that is named the most in the Bible, I think it's 365 days, which is literally a message for every day of the year. It says, do not be afraid. Do not fear. You shall not fear. That is actually God's word. Those are actually God's teachings. And yes, somewhere in the Bible, it also says, I'm a jealous God and you shall only fear God. But doesn't that make sense, right? Doesn't it make sense to fear the most powerful being, the creator, the ruler of all of life? I'm not talking about the ruler of earth, because I believe that's someone else. which I may or may not be going into in this episode. But of course, in a way, that's also to have a healthy sense of fear towards God is also, in a way, respecting God's almightiness and power, and to not be afraid of such a big force is a bit oblivious. And that doesn't mean you shall walk in fear. I hope I'm really trying to convey the message that there's a difference in that. So, but if anything, these teachings of Jesus Christ are, and of God, and what God and Jesus have done in my life, it's to trust. And I've really been able to restore deep, deep trust in my life. So maybe I'll do a little short introduction for those of you who don't know me yet, who were maybe sent here through a friend, or you just found this podcast any other way. Welcome. You're super welcome to be here. Everyone is super welcome to be here. Also, if we are connected maybe in person or you've joined my retreats. And I really also want you to know that you're welcome from whatever background or belief you come from. And I really appreciate you being here. So thank you for taking this time out of your day to have this moment. Short introduction for those who don't know me. My name is Maaike. I am Dutch. I was born in Utrecht, lived in Amsterdam for most of my life. I moved to Ibiza about 3 years ago, and I kind of live a back and forth life between the magical island of Ibiza and still the Netherlands, where I live in a beautiful forest cabin and still visiting the city as much as I can. So I feel I'm living the best of both worlds. I was running a modeling agency since age 21. And I did that as I was working for other modeling agencies in the event and hospitality industry for years, and then wanted to start my own business. And so I did that at a very young age, and I worked hard, and I basically proved to myself that I could do this, that I was a strong, independent woman. So how I was raised, I saw my mother live, and myself and my sister growing up without a father, as my father, our father, passed away at age 5. And as a result, I saw the strong, independent woman my mother was. She was a fierce lioness when it came to providing and protecting for us. And I really could feel how she had given her life for us. Unfortunately, she passed away too. So at age 27, my mother passed away. My relationship of about 4 years ended, and I was so in love with this guy. We were both so in love with each other, but we were not good for each other. We just could not make it work. It was the classical toxic relationship where there was so much love, but we just could not make it work. I had rented out my home. I, as I was living with him, I had rented my own home. I didn't have a house. My mother was dying, and then I had my modeling business, and I was doing everything I could to keep that afloat, dealing with all of the grief and all of the stress. I was having heart palpitations every day when I woke up. I was having shortness of breath. And then my main employee of my business at the time quit. And she was basically holding the whole business together operationally. So, and she was like, I'm gone in 2 weeks. And I was like, but my mother's dying and I don't have a house. And with this and with that. I was literally sleeping with friends. And I really had my rock bottom moment where at one point I had given away my car for the models to use at some event, and I didn't realize that until 6 o'clock at night as I left the office. And I was like, fuck, and there's my car, and I have no home, and I don't have my things, and everything is gone, and my life was such a big mess. And I remember at that time not believing in God, but definitely feeling something needs to change. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if God exists or if a higher power exists, but something must exist. And I'm ready to find that and to meet that. And I remember praying actually out loud and talking to something of like, if you're real, then guide me and guide me out of this mess. I know there is another way of living. I know I'm not meant to be waking up with heart palpitations and shortness of breath and like hyperventilation and all of this stress pumping through my body, and this anxiety that I was feeling, and this deep grief, and how difficult it was for me to separate with that partner at the time. I knew there was a better way. And so I really trusted my intuition from that moment. And that led me to Bali, where very eat, pray, love, I had a huge spiritual awakening. And I kind of realized I have a purpose on this earth, and it is to raise the collective consciousness, and it is to bring people to the truth and to higher states of consciousness. And so I started doing that by organizing retreats which I called the Inner Beauty Retreats, because I originally intended those retreats to be for my models, as I wanted to invest in being the best employer I could. I really wanted these models to be glowing and radiating from the inside. And I could really see that happy people shine and that happy people are good employees. So I was like, how can I make these women even more happy and shining and radiating from the inside? Because I could see something in people's eyes. That is what I really saw in Bali. There's something with people's eyes. And I was like, that is special. Later, I realized what that was their connection to something higher. It was them being spiritually awake. I changed my whole life around. I went raw vegan. I quit alcohol. I quit drugs. Smoking, I'd already given up. I took a 180. I stopped wearing makeup. Like, so I went from this modeling agency girl who was in this relationship, by the way, with a DJ who went to techno festivals and parties, I don't know how many times a week, using drugs, the whole shebang, to this vegan, all day meditating girl that was seeking purity and cleanliness and detoxification and stillness and higher purpose. And so it was a really big change for me and also for the people surrounding me. And it has led me on such a beautiful journey of organizing retreats. At some point, I started to give healing sessions as I was really guided to heal people, first with my hands. Later, I discovered my own basically healing technique where I stopped using energy work. I'll be telling a lot more about that because one of the things that's been happening in my journey is that quite naturally, a lot of spiritual things have started to fall away in my life the last couple of years. For example, my connection with energy work. There was something about me that's like, I'm not really connecting with this anymore. And I think there must be another way than literally working with and influencing and manipulating people's energy fields. I think people are their own healer and there's a higher power that truly heals us. And how can we activate that so that they are not dependent on me, on an energy healer, someone from the outside who's like working on their chakras, who still has a limited experience of truly everything that happens inside these chakras. So this is just one example. So I was doing a lot of healing sessions that did not involve energy healing more at some point. I started doing mentorships where I'm still doing this, where I'm coaching women, mostly entrepreneurial women that are seeking to live their purpose, are seeking to have fulfilling lives and love lives, and are here to do good in the world, and also are seeking deeper healing so that they can be fully themselves and fully expressed. So this change happened, and me starting to organize retreats and everything happened in 2015. So that's 9 years ago from the moment I'm recording this. And from that moment, I've been in the spiritual world and I've played around in the spiritual world. I have seen, done, and tried a lot. And I have also come to the conclusion that some things are not for me and that some things are not necessarily the truth. They come close, but they're not quite it. And I could tell because I was doing so much work on myself, so much work, inner child healing, this, hypnosis, readers, psychics, like the whole shebang, and still plant medicines, and still some deeper wounds I would address, but never fully properly heal. And I could feel that as I entered into my last relationship, I basically manifested my last relationship using manifestation techniques, actually. And then this beautiful man came into my path who looked gorgeous and basically looked like that's the dream. That's what I've been looking for. And when I was in that relationship, I could feel that relationship was partly, it was so beautiful and we really loved each other, and there was definitely deep soul connection there. And I could also feel at the time the relationship was functioning as a band-aid for deeper wounds in me that were not addressed and not healed. And as the relationship progressed, I started to feel, I know there's these feelings deep down inside that I'm not feeling right now because I'm in the comfort of this beautiful relationship and we were creating beautiful things together in the world. And I couldn't really feel those things. And I kind of knew at one point that Band-Aid is going to be ripped off and I'm going to have to face everything that's there. And my spiritual tools and teachings up until that point weren't cutting it, weren't doing it. So I did not grow up religious. I did not grow up with Jesus at all. My mother was raised Christian, Catholic. I actually don't know. I can't ask her anymore. But she decided to not raise us that way so that we could basically find whatever truth we would find on our own. So that's a little bit of my background so that you know where I'm coming from. And I'd love to talk to you now about my coming to Jesus moment, because that is really, maybe to this day, still the most beautiful experience of my life that I just hold very, very dearly. And yeah, it gives a lot of people goosebumps when I tell the story. And it was just so unmistakable. 1.5 years ago, early 2022, I went to a ayahuasca retreat. I've been drinking ayahuasca a fair bit. This was about to be my 8th or my 10th ceremony, and we were drinking 4 nights in a row. I'd never done that before, and it's really intense because you do go deeper with every journey. What happened for me? So in this specific retreat, you were guided to have 3 big prayers. One of these prayers being, heal my heart. Oh, no, the first prayer they're guiding you to pray is to the medicine, show me who I have become. And then for some that takes maybe 2 ceremonies, for some it comes really quickly, show me who I have become. The second prayer would be, heal my heart. And the third prayer would be, merge me back with my soul at all costs. At all costs. So when that was spoken, you could feel like this shiver go through the room of like, at all costs? And I was there. I was one of them to be like, at all costs? I'm not so sure if I'm at all costs ready to merge back with my soul. But of course, I was, right? I'm a truth seeker. I search the truth. I search depth. Whatever I'm doing, I want to do it all the way. So I got over myself and I was like, yes, I can pray this prayer. In my first ceremony, I really got that. Show me who I've become. There was so much healing. In the second as well, it was healing my heart, and it was a lot of healing my body at the time and my nervous system, because I was actually close to burnout because the year before I had taken on so many projects. Insane. If I look back at what I was trying to do as a one-woman show, way, 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 way too much. Like, yeah, I'm not even gonna go into the details of that, but it was a lot. So I was close to burnout, and I was also there. I could feel that. I'd already put on the handbrakes, but I was here with questions of like, how do I manage my company? For example, I wanted to run smoothly without me needing to manage it. And God, source, spirit, I didn't have a one word for that at the time, come into my business and help me and all of that. But I really prayed this prayer of, heal my heart and merge me back with my soul at all costs. I was warned, we were warned, that it was possible for people to have the experience of death, meaning you would feel as if you were truly physically dying. And they ensured us nobody has ever physically died at this place. And they basically do retreats all year round. A lot of people have gone through this experience. Trust it. It will feel very real, but you won't truly physically die. Trust the process. I was like, okay, I've learned how to trust the process. I've learned a fair bit about surrender. So if that happens, that happens. And the fourth night, so this was the final night, we were served a stronger medicine on the last 2 nights called Yahe. By the way, I'm not promoting plant medicine. I will definitely speak more about that. I'm just sharing you my personal experience and how my coming to Jesus happened. We were served a very strong medicine. And after experiencing such beauty and such healing, I suddenly started to see all images of death. And everything was black and gray, and I saw skulls and bones, and I really felt decay around me. And then I felt decay inside me. And I was like, oh my God, this is really happening. I am really going to die. And it feels so real and it looks so real. And I, for a moment, thought, but this is real. This is physical, like 100%. My body is decaying right now. I feel like my life closing in on me. And I remembered their teaching of like, trust it, trust it. And even right before, maybe half an hour before, I heard a woman in the room cry. She was like, help, I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying. And then a facilitator came over to her and support her and be like, it's okay, trust the process. So I had those reminders. So as I approached that death, but I really did feel I was going to truly die, I took my time to really say my goodbyes and to, literally think about the people that I love that I'll miss. And also, I decided, well, if this is really it, like if this is really going to happen, I can't change it anyway. So, like, what can I do? I'm completely drugged on a mat in a room somewhere on the other side of the world, drinking some kind of medicine in the jungle. Like, how do I stop this? Like, there's nothing I can do. So, trust the process. And I chose, because this was the lesson in the night before, I learned that I could choose for my healing and my transformation to be painful or pleasurable. I learned that I literally have the choice by choosing how my experience is going to be. So it was like, all right, if I'm going to die, I'm fully surrendering, but I choose it to be pleasurable. And so it was. And it was actually an enjoyable death up until the moment of full darkness, blackness. There was simply nothingness, nothing. And then the next moment, the next scene, I am standing on the gate of St. Petrus. I'm standing in the stairway to heaven before literally the gates of heaven with St. Petrus there. And I was there, and it was such a real experience. And at the same time, my mind was still present as well, like in the back, but it was still present as well. It was like, but this is what's written about in the Bible. And I don't really believe the Bible. I thought the Bible was a book made up by people. I honestly, for a long time in my life, thought that the story of Jesus was a made up story and that religion was made up to control people and to basically keep people obeying and enslaved to something that would serve certain forces. I did not believe that story completely when I went into ceremony, because I did believe in Jesus, or at least in Christ consciousness, because I've been working with that and coming across that in my healing sessions, for example. Um, but I did not believe in the Bible. So when I was experiencing that, I was like, I don't know if that's a real thing, but it's clearly a real thing because I'm here. So I'm just going to trust it, surrender, surrender. And I decided to enter the gates of heaven. So I decided to walk in and enter heaven. And I think I spent maybe 30 minutes there, could be 45, could be 20. I don't know. It's really hard to tell time, but that's what it felt like a good chunk of time. And it was the most beautiful experience ever. It was incredible. There was so much light and so much beauty and so much goodness, and there was pleasure and there was beauty and there was all knowingness. So I remember that I knew everything that of earth and on earth. It's like everything that I've been seeking, like information, it was all there. It was fully there. It was blissful, love, purity, goodness. It was really, really amazing. So I spent time there loving life. And at one point, I realized I'm in a kingdom. And suddenly I'm in a kingdom and I'm in this big, huge kingdom. And it was silver. And I was looking inside. I'm like, wow, I'm in a kingdom. What does this mean? And like, only later, a couple of weeks after the ceremony, I realized the kingdom of heaven is inside you. And that being a biblical teaching as well. And I was like, of course, the kingdom of heaven is inside you. At that moment, I couldn't piece those two together, but it made sense. There were more biblical experiences I've had. In this kingdom, I received a crown. And I didn't understand that. I was like, why do I receive a crown? And I'm not quite sure who gave it, if they were angels or if they were Jesus, but definitely I was receiving this crown. And it felt as if I was receiving that for some kind of spiritual pursuit, like some kind of spiritual accomplishment. That's how it felt like. And later, as I Googled, I could find that indeed the Bible writes about this too. I cannot quote you exactly. I don't know where it says. I just remember Googling at the time. So this is 2.5 years ago, 1.5 years ago. So there was another biblical experience I've had. And then there was this voice that told me, and now you're about to meet Jesus. And I was like, what? I'm not ready for that. And I put my hands over my eyes. I was like, no, 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 I'm not ready for that. That's so big. Let me prepare. So I held my hands before my eyes like this, and I just took a breath and like, okay, am I ready to meet Jesus? And I was like, Deep breath. Okay, I'm ready. And I opened my hands. I opened my hands from my eyes like this. I still had my physical eyes closed, but I was looking with my third eye, and there Jesus was right in front of me. And he was the biggest, brightest light ever. And I don't know how I remember this, if I was seeing that of just the memory that stuck with me. But I remember both the bright light, and I also remember him standing in like a white gown, arms wide, like this, like you'd expect, dark brown hair, like this, just glowing and basking in and radiating in love and in light. And I was like, I remember wanting to ask him a question. So I asked him a question, and the communication happens telepathically in an instant. And I wanted to ask him, I don't know what the question was, but he immediately interrupted me and said, you shouldn't ask me questions. Don't ask me questions. I'm here to be experienced. You should experience me instead. And I was like, okay. So I just basically leaned back, trusted, opened my heart. He opened his, and he just gave me a transmission from his heart to mine that, for my feeling, lasted a good 15 minutes or something like this. But again, it could have been 5. It's hard to tell time in these experiences. And he just radiated peace and pure, pure peace, the biggest and greatest peace I've ever felt in my life as this transmission from his heart to mine. And it was so light, and I could feel how there's no peace without love. So there was so much love in the peace, and the peace was so deep. And it was like, this is what I've been looking for on earth. This is what I've been looking for in my life. And I've been working so hard and stressing myself out to with this false belief that eventually it'll lead me to peace, but it doesn't. How does living a stressful life ever lead you to peace? It doesn't. But this is what I seek. It's that peace, that love, that light, that stillness. And I was just receiving that. I felt like receiving it into all cells of my being, even though I didn't really have cells. I don't know what body I had in that experience. I wasn't aware of that, but I definitely was aware of receiving this. And then I was aware of having a heart. So I guess it was my etheric body having that experience. But it was so deep and so unmistakable. And I could just rest in that so deeply and really feel him and understand him and unmistakably know that he's alive and that he's real and that he's not a man made up figure. He is actually alive, and he is seeking your heart. At least in that moment, he was seeking my heart. And it felt like I felt so complete after that journey. I felt so complete with ayahuasca, with plant medicine. Also, I was like, like, why go back? How could I experience anything more beautiful or purposeful or necessary or needed after this? Literally. The only reason why I would go back to plant medicine or to ayahuasca, I felt at the time is to go back and have the same experience, which doesn't make sense. Like, that's not how you use plant medicine. So it felt like the closing of a loop and the end of a journey, and with the beginning of a new journey. And then I came back to the world, right? And I shared this. I was at this retreat with my then partner, and I shared that of like this experience that I've had that changed me forever, because I could now no longer deny that Jesus was real. I could now no longer deny that the Bible has truth and that I was experiencing things that were written there. And I was like, wow, I'm deeply changed on the inside. I know things are going to change in my life, but I don't really know how to place that just yet. At that time, right after that ceremony, my relationship was hanging by a loose thread. We had both seen our marriage and our children in that, but there was also something else that happened quite shortly after this ceremony that I believe was coming from the medicine as well, like a little painful souvenir, you could say, from the medicine. And I don't believe that medicine spaces are always good and protected, that caused our relationship to be hanging by a thin thread. And I was really close to giving up on the relationship. But my partner at the time, he was like, no, I am going to fight for this. And I'm deeply sorry and you don't deserve that. And I'm going to give you all that you deserve and I'm going to change. And I was like, okay, I trust it. And all in that time, I was still trying to find Jesus and I couldn't really find him anymore. And I didn't really know how. I had no Christian friends. I was not raised religious, as you know. I didn't really know how to place it. And I listened to worship music and I thought it was beautiful music, but I couldn't really connect with it on a very deep level. It's like, that's really beautiful, but I'm not really feeling that much. Jesus, where are you then? Like, I don't know. Like, I know you're here. I've accepted that, but how do I connect deeper? And it wasn't until my relationship ended a little less than a year after that moment that I could fully feel all of that pain that I've been talking about before, that I couldn't feel before. Like that band-aid got ripped off. It was so painful when it happened. It was so harsh. It was so rough. And that's where Jesus was again. So my partner and I, we had been building a beautiful life together. We've been building houses together and income streams. And this house that I'm in, we have bought that. We renovated that for a year. We had the kids' room ready. We were like ready to move in. And right when the house was about finished, like just the tiny details still had to be finished, that's when we decided to split up and separate. And we separated January 1st of 2023. We spent New Year's Eve together. And then the next day around 4 o'clock, he packed his bags and that was it. And I chose to fully give myself to the heartbreak. I chose to be in this cabin in the woods, mind you, away from a city, away from my friends, in the middle of nowhere, where there's no green outside because everything is dark, it's gray, it's winter, it's cold, and energetically it was so cold. I'm in this perfect house, beautifully renovated house, but so cold and void of love. No friends, no comfort. I'm in the middle of nowhere. There's no food delivery. There's no Uber Eats. Like, there's just no comfort. And I was like, that is the perfect place for me to heal my heart. And I just really need to face this and feel the pain fully. And so I did. And I basically had 3 months to fully grieve and die and literally have all these parts of me die before I had to fly to Ibiza to host my retreat, the healed edition of the Inner Beauty Retreat. Ironically, the theme was healed, and I was so broken myself. But those 3 months and that retreat really healed me. And what I did in those 3 months is really feeling all of the pain. And in that, I started listening to pastors and sermons, and there was Jesus again. And I had moments, I've been crying and laying on the bathroom floor, like in a puddle of despair. Oh my God, it's like I just see my whole life that I've been building, that I've been looking forward towards, flash before my eyes, and you're like, "Whoa," it's ripped away, so harsh. And that's where Jesus was again. And it was in one of these bathroom floor sessions, listening to a pastor or a sermon online, that I gave my life to Jesus. Basically, someone was guiding this prayer of people to give their life to Jesus. And I was like, yes, I am giving it to you because I know you're real and I know you're good and I know what you let me feel. And I clearly don't know how to live my own life. I clearly don't know how to make the big choices when it comes to my love life, for example. I just make a mess. And I couldn't trust myself anymore. The choices that I've made leading up to this, I couldn't trust myself anymore. And yeah, I was like, you do it. You do it, Jesus. You do it, God. I trust you. I have literally nowhere else to go but to fully surrender to God. And I didn't trust life and God very much at the moment because everything was being taken from me and it was so harsh. But I took that moment to really trust and to learn to trust again. So that's when a journey of complete restoration with God took place for me, of true and deep healing on those deepest parts. Band-aid ripped off, letting God in these places where God was lacking, in these places where I was still in lack, where I was still void and empty of God's love. And that's what I've been trying to fill with worldly things, with people, with love, relationships, with success, with purpose, with serving others. And all of these things are beautiful and purposeful. But the parts of you that are void of God, those holes cannot be filled with anything else than God. That's what we need. And I really found, as I was giving my most broken pieces to God, like offering it up and like, here's where I'm hurting so deeply. Here is that pain. You take it because I can't heal this. I'm out of my depth here. I'm out of my resources. I've tried everything. And I've come like a really long way in order to heal these parts. But the last bits I cannot do because it needs God's love. So here it is. I'm broken. I'm this, everything. I really offered it up. And that's where finally, these parts received healing, received God's love. We're loved and held in this unconditional love. And slowly but surely, I started to restore my relationship with God and started to trust God more. And it was really such a leap of faith because I had to trust before I was able to see any evidence. I had to take a leap of faith. I had to believe before seeing proof, even though I had this crystal clear experience of Jesus. So I knew he was real. There were still many things I wasn't trusting in, but I chose. I chose to believe. I chose to believe in the goodness of God. I chose to believe in the goodness of life. I chose to open my heart and do the right thing, even if it was very difficult. I believe we can always feel what the right thing is to do in any given situation, even though our egos and our pain bodies might want something else. I do believe we can always feel whether something is right or not. So I was really following that and trusting that wherever it would lead me. And so from there, the journey deepened and deepened and deepened. So from that moment on, I really started to build my relationship with God, with Jesus, before telling the world about it. And I'm really happy I did that. And this is also the reason why I haven't been talking about this online, where I don't know what's life for you and whether you're listening from, but in the Netherlands, there's a quite big movement going on of people leaving New Age and finding Jesus. And there's a few key figures that have spoken out about that. And I was like watching that, and I'm like, Jesus has found me, and I'm clearly walking the path with him, but I wasn't ready to speak about it just yet. So, but I have been observing like the shift take place in the collective in the Netherlands, where a lot of spiritual people are like, what's happening? Like, why are all these people turning to Jesus? And some of them were actually quite strong also in their wording of like, well, now this is of the devil, and you should stay away from the new age, and this is dangerous, and that's dangerous, and blah, blah. So they were leading people from this place that have been leading people before to that place with very strong warnings about this being wrong and unsafe. And it has caused a lot of people to feel like very wobbly of like, what's this? Like now everything that I'm doing that is helping me is of the devil. And like, so it was very difficult for people to receive that. And I've just been observing that movement and being like, I'm not ready. I'm still walking my own path with the Lord and with God. And I cannot speak about it until I'm integrated in that, because I was still seeking truth. So I didn't speak with people about this. I didn't read the Bible. I didn't go to church. I really wanted to develop my relationship with him first and seek personal relationship with him first. So I really did that by letting him in the most sacred and deepest and broken and wounded parts of my being, by praying a lot, by surrendering, by truly giving my life to him, truly letting go and believing in something much greater, and praying for his will to be done over my will, and making it very clear, look, God, this is my will and it's very big, and this is my biggest longing and my biggest desire, but I choose to pray for your will above mine, and I choose to trust that you love me and that you know what's best for me and that you know better than I know. And so that's really what I've been doing a lot. And this was maybe 6 months ago that the more I started to pray and the more I started to play worship music in my house in Ibiza, the more other things I also started to experience. I started to experience what I now understand, and at that time I actually understood as well, is spiritual warfare. And I may explain more about that in another episode if there's interest in that. I was warned also by this. So I turned to a few Christians. I reached out, and also people that left a new age for Jesus in my search of like, tell me a bit more. And I wanted to be in their presence and like feel the energy, because I was like still dabbling, one foot in, one foot out, not knowing the full truth, knowing Jesus, but not knowing the full truth of all of this movement. And I was warned by some people like, well, the more you start to seek Jesus, the more you will find spiritual warfare. And people were talking to me about baptism and how the warfare would intensify for them after that. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not quite sure if that's something I'm up for, because I'm already having some really big challenges in my life right now, but let's see about that. So I was not being baptized yet, not reading Bible. I started to read the Bible at that time about 6 months ago, not going to church just yet, not having Christian friends. One or two people like walked into my life that was really beautiful, but not a lot. But spiritual warfare really started to intensify. And I won't go into a lot of detail, but I was experiencing attacks on my house, my health. It was playing out through conflict with people. My finances were greatly under attack. Yeah, there was more that was under attack that I'm just not ready to speak about, and I don't know if I ever will. But it was very hard and very challenging, and I could really feel there are spiritual forces that are just seeking to destroy me and things in my life. And funnily enough, or maybe not, but because of that warfare intensifying, it was intensifying the more I started to pray and the more I started to listen to worship. I was like, this is really interesting, because I have not experienced that when I was in the new age, when I was, doing all of those things. So it's really interesting that suddenly when you turn to Jesus, you get all this spiritual backlash and like forces that are trying to keep you from that path. Like, why is that? But I still trusted, and I was like, God, you have my heart fully, and I ask you for protection and ask you for this, da, 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 da. And at one point, I remember asking, I was praying to God every day at the time, and I was praying in the form of writing. So I wrote every day to God as if I was writing like a journal, but addressed to God, about my day, what's been happening, what I've been feeling, my pain, my gratitude, my fears, my questions, my I don't know about this, show me where to go next. And then I prayed. I said, I know you're real. I know Jesus is real. And I need proof. I still need physical proof for my human mind that needs to know not only that you're real and that you exist, but that you're truly here to save us and to help us in times of need, and that we can truly count on you, that I can truly count on you. So I need proof, physical proof. And I asked for 3 miracles to take place. And then, of course, within the next 2 weeks, I received these 3 miracles. They were three different, but three situations where I was stuck, literally physically stuck in a situation in the world where I could not get myself out of, and I needed saving. And I remember being in a situation being like, fuck, I need to be saved out of this. Again, I'm out of my resources. I cannot fix this. And I need a solution within minutes. And with one of them within hours, I need a solution. Otherwise, shit is really going to hit the fan. And I prayed. And I prayed, Lord Jesus, Father, I love you. I trust you. I believe in you. I know you're real. And if you're truly the Savior, now would be a really good time to save me. I cannot do this on my own. I need you. I need you right now. Please come and save me now. And I know that according to my faith, it shall be done. And I have faith. And that was my prayer in these three situations. And lo and behold, within minutes, I kid you not, I was saved out of these situations. Within minutes. I may share what the miracles are at some point, but if I tell people, they're like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. They're literally thinking, you're like, yeah, there's not much you can do. There is, because, and that is, it has really given me the proof that when you're stuck, when you've reached the end of the road, it's never the end of the road. Not when you walk with God, not when you walk with Jesus, not when you literally have Jesus beside you, like behind you. There's never, there's never a dead end. So that has really deepened my faith. And especially the third miracle was like, oh my God, hallelujah. I just fell on my knees. because that's the one I really needed a solution for, because it might, me not having a solution would impact a lot of other people as well. It would impact my business in a great way if I didn't have a solution in that moment. And it was given. Ask and you shall given. And yeah, oh my God, there's so much I want to talk to you about, because there's so much more that I want to say. And you've also sent me in your questions, which are beautiful, and I'm loving them. And I so understand also the questions, and I'd love to answer them all. So it's gonna be so much more I'm gonna share with you. But yeah, the miracles and receiving truly the work, receiving the help of the Father, of the Lord, of Jesus, coming to save me in moments where I could not save myself within minutes. That was like the final proof that I need to be like, okay, and now I'm all in. Baptize me. I'll go to church. I'll start picking up the Bible a lot more. Show me everything else that needs to go from my life. Show me how you want me to change my business, my teachings, like what can stay, what can go. I'm just really all in. Like, this is, yeah. And I haven't even mentioned the other things, that maybe even the most important things that have happened since allowing Jesus into my life is like the internal purification that happened inside of me. I, I could not have done that without, I could not have done that without Jesus. Exactly all these places inside of me that were not completely pure just yet, that I was still hiding from the world, from myself, even places where I was still not in full integrity or honesty. Those are not really the right words, but where there was still shadow playing out inside of me. I really gave up everything and be like, purify me, purify me, purify me, do what you must do, prepare me for the life you have for me. My biggest dream and desire is family, is to be in union with my divine partner, to create a big and beautiful family. Like, that's the biggest desire I have, but it can't just be any man. It has to be the right one. And that desire is so big. And so I started to pray, God, transform me, shape me into the woman you want me to be. Change me into the woman who is a wife and who is a mother, and like take everything inside of me that is not in service to that. I don't just want to birth a child with any man and like be a mother. No, I want divine union. I want to serve the kingdom of God with my life, with my family. I want to serve the greater good. I want my union to be uplifting for others as well. I have like it's not a small thing, it's like a big thing. Transform me, shape me, take everything inside of me that is not in service of that. And well, yeah, he did. Took a lot, took a lot. So he took that relationship, he took a friendship, he took another friendship, he took my house on Ibiza. I had a beautiful house and a beautiful project where I was creating community, and I was living with the foods from my own garden and drinking water from my own well. And it was paradise, like a little piece of paradise on earth. And I was hosting other people in that experience to, enjoy this little paradise on earth and to be inspired and to really connect and da, da, da. It was so beautiful. And it all had to go. And some of these things, actually all of these things, were taken in a very painful way, like with betrayal and loss and lying and like around me. And it was like so harsh. And it was such a harsh reality check that I had been building things on unstable ground. I had been building on a foundation, not of God, but on a foundation of spiritual truths and manifestations, and this idea of you can have it all and more. And I still wanted more in my life. And one of the things that has changed by really letting God in is no longer seeking more. And I really feel there's a matrix of more, of wanting more, that even when you're spiritual and doing all the things right, you can still fall prey to. And I think I was, in a way, not in a big way, but I was always searching for more. And that all made place for needing a lot less. Like, I just don't need that much in my life. And I'm okay with a lot less. So that went, like I said, friendships, relationships went, and I could see that they had to go because they were connections with people who were very much focused on worldly things and on worldly success, like I was as well in a way. And it just had to go. And of course, as I prayed, remove everything that's in the way of my connection to you, God. Remove everything that's standing in the way of truth and of my deepest longing and desire and purpose. Take it all. These things and these people were removed from my life. And it was painful and it was hard. But at the same time, new people walked into my life, new opportunities walked into my life. That's that felt so effortless and so calm and so beautiful and so life-giving instead of life-taking. There was no power struggles, which I could find in some of these previous more worldly relationships. There was some power struggles going on, and all of that just went and made space for new and for people and things and places I'm so, so grateful for that are truly in line with what God wants for me and I believe wants for all of us. One of the things I really learned is that what Jesus wants for us and for you and for me is peace. He really wants us to live a peaceful life. And we're not here to seek worldly things because they will all pass when we pass away. And these deeper things like peace and love and truth and those deeper values, we will take those with us when we leave our physical body. But our possessions, our success, our status, our money are like, we're not going to take any of that. So don't get too attached on in the physical world. But yeah, just purify. Allow yourself to be purified on the inside. And how I feel this difference internally of like cleanliness and openness and purity, I can feel now where there were still shadows inside of me before that I feel have gone. And it feels just pure, clean, still open. Cannot recommend it enough. 5 star, 5 star review. Absolutely. This Jesus thing, it is the most beautiful thing that has happened in my life. And so much more that has happened. I feel like we're reaching the end of this episode. So I'm gonna round this up. But in new episodes, I will definitely share with you more changes that have took place, what giving my life to Jesus has done, but definitely what I can say, it has brought me peace. It has brought me stillness. It has opened my eyes to the truth and to the full truth. My discernment is better than ever before, and I was really lacking in discernment with the way I let certain people into my life and business and way too close, people that hadn't really proven their trustworthiness. So my discernment is really beautiful right now. Strong cancellation policy at the door and strong, like, how do you call that? You know what I mean? A strong entry policy and cancellation policy at the door. My trust in life is really restored. I'm no longer seeking. I'm no longer seeking things in the external. I still have desire and longing. I'm not hiding from these feelings inside of myself, but I can find the beauty in that longing. I can feel the godliness and the divinity in that longing now. Another thing that has really changed in me, and simultaneously, as I was in this God path and Jesus path, I was really focused on healing my relationship with the masculine. And that has really happened in a big way by healing my relationship with the masculine face of God, with the Father specifically, and also with Jesus. And as a result of that, I'm much more in my feminine, which I wanted to be, because for years I'd been operating more from a masculine dynamics within myself, which was trauma based and society based, and it's not rightful. It's not my natural design as a woman. It's what got me close into a burnout kind of situation. It's not leading me to peace, like I said before. And I knew I really wanted to restore myself and my relationship to my feminine essence. And I could, like, all these polarity teachings and all of that work and womb work, and it didn't land as deeply without Jesus, without having this strong masculine protection and providership behind me, before me, and knowing that I don't need to protect myself spiritually. I don't need to fight. I don't need to save myself out of situations. I have God doing that for me. I just need to ask and be faithful that it shall be given, and it shall be given. So, because I know I'm guided, I'm protected, I'm loved, I'm cared for, I'm held for by the strongest masculine I could ever think of, that exists, I can relax as a woman, and my nervous system could finally heal. And I was doing so much nervous system work when I was healing from this breakup, because again, it was a really painful process. But yeah, this is really one of the things that restoring my relationship with God has given me. It was restoring my relationship to my feminine essence as well. So I could be much softer and much more trusting, and not seeking and grasping and controlling and manipulating, which are all shadows of the feminine that were still playing out inside of me as well. And it's not there. There's just this. And that's it. It's pure, it's real, it's soft, it's vulnerable. I'm so excited for you to listen to this. I'm so excited for you to be on this journey. And if you have questions, please do seek me on Instagram, Mike Anistad. Send me a message. I love hearing from you. I love chatting to you. I will be answering more of your questions in episodes to come. I'm really excited to do that. And I'm just really curious to hear how this landed for you. Yes, so thank you for being here. I want to close off this episode by thanking God, by thanking Jesus for everything he's done in my life, for the direction that is clear, for restoring me, for working through my life, for showing me that I never have to worry, that I am cared for, loved, chosen, that he seeks my heart, and that I'm just so grateful for all the things that he's done in my life. And I want to say to you, if you're listening and if you're going through a process in your life of death, of challenge, of loss, of breakup, grief, betrayal, all of these painful things, to trust that this is not the end of your story, and that life, God is working through you. And I encourage you to seek God and to pray the prayers and ask Him to take everything that's no longer meant to be in your life, to ask Him to take everything that's not in your highest service, to ask Him to purify you according to His will, and to ask Him to let His will be done for your life, because it is much greater than what you could want for yourself. And it will come more effortless than you could create it on your own. And I would also encourage anyone to not rely on their own strength, but to rely on His. I've really found that my true strength is not of my own in myself. And I'm strong as a woman. I'm strong as a person. Like, I'm emotionally, I'm strong, and mentally, I'm strong. But I'm nothing. I'm nothing compared to the power of God and the goodness of God. And this humbling process is so beautiful. I understand if there may be resistance in you as you listen to this or hear this, but I really encourage you to trust it, to trust in the goodness of the Lord, of Jesus. He is here for all of us. He is here for you too. And what really helped me is to seek personal relationship with Him before the world would tell me what that looked like, before church or Bible or other Christians would tell me that. So that was really my way. It can definitely look very different for you, but if you're on the path searching, I would recommend you search Him first by praying, 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 and use faith in your prayers. That's what really helped me and like made such a big difference. Faith. I chose to trust in it and in Him before I received the proof. I was like, I need to prove it. I know it and I trust it. And give it to me. Yeah, that's really what I can say to you, and know that you're loved and held. And again, thank you for being here. If you've made it all the way here, I would so love and appreciate it if you would leave like a 5-star review on any of the platforms that you've been watching this, because that really helps the podcast reach more people. And I really want this to reach more people because I want to spread the word of God, the goodness of God, my testimony. I'm doing this free of charge because I feel guided to. God has been so good to me. I want to, yeah, pay it forward and do more of his work. So you could really help me a lot with that. I think Spotify would be the best to give it a 5-star review, because most likely that's going to be the platform. And again, send me your questions. I have a video of my baptism on my Instagram. So if you go to that reel, you can leave your comments there or just DM me and I will do my best to answer them. I love you. Thank you for being here. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Much love.